Hi, I'm Don Baxter. I am recently appointed CEO of Ceylon Graphite, and I'm a mining engineer. I came from being on the board of Ceylon to taking over as our previous CEO wanted to retire. So with my background as a mining engineer and running several other graphite companies, it made sense for me to do that, to expedite the process and to pick up and bring the company further at a little more rapid pace, let's say. My background, most recent one, I was CEO of Alabama Graphite. It was taken over by a NASDAQ company. They liked my business model. And it was the first, I have to say, the first mine to battery project that was out there. There's many more since, but I was the first. So I've been doing this for a while. So I think we have some pretty exciting things coming forward with Ceylon.
Brilliant. Don, lovely to meet you. We met your predecessor back in December. It was a story that seemed quite complicated to us. So I'm delighted that you're coming on the show to talk us about was it Ceylon Graphite version 2.0. We're hopefully going to hear about today. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about you. So you started selling, well, you told us a little bit about your background. Can you get into the weeds there about what you did? They liked your business model. What does that mean?
Well, again, I recognized about 2012. I was with another public company at the time as president, that we were approached by a couple of Japanese companies to look at, can you start working on spherical graphite and purification methods that aren't like the Chinese, basically nasty hydrofluoric acid. So knowing this was coming, this wave of demand is going to be coming. So I've been working on this for a while. I progressed through a couple of other companies, gradually realizing that the real interest in graphite is not graphite and selling graphite concentrate. The world doesn't need more graphite concentrate. It needs battery-ready anode graphite. So I did that I recognized that the project in Southern Alabama was lower grade. It was small flake. So which is sort of counter to some of the lower grade, large flake deposits in Canada that I dealt with. So I recognized that we're not going to make a lot of money and have a lot of interest in the product by just trying to sell flake. The margins in the process to make and sell coated spherical graphite. So we did that, took it through PEA level, and showed that the margin is tremendous with starting small scale mining and then taking it down the road and making coated spherical graphite out of it. We were progressing further to add little bits of silicon and whatnot, but we were looking at a base case scenario there in that model. We were approached by a company that now owns the property, took it over and everything. So they liked the business model. I didn't really care to stay there. I left and then went on to do things myself privately to continue developing processes for doing this. And then joined the board at Ceylon Graphite just probably January 2020, just pre-COVID, as an independent director, knowing I was probably going to be a little bit of mission creep as far as with my background to get more and more involved. And then just recently knowing, Bharat, as you mentioned, my predecessor was wanting to retire. So the quickest way to let that happen was for me to step up. So I think I'll bring a new perspective to things. I am a mining engineer after all. I do have a lot of focus on the processing of graphite, and I recognize that again, the need for graphite is not processed concentrate, primary process, it's secondary coated spherical graphite. The demand for that is going to exceed 3 million tons, according to Bench. If you look at what Benchmark it puts out there, and you look at the number of gigawatt factories that are being built, and if you just do the quick math, every gigawatt of a factory capacity is 1,200 tons of processed graphite. So the world needs a lot of this, and they need it, quicker than they think. Looking at coming out of COVID, it's accelerated this whole process and the need for this.
We'll come to that, Don. I don't want to go into the market stuff yet. I want to stick with you. I want to understand you more. So, okay, so you've described what they liked in terms of your strategy, your model, as it were. So what did you do there, and what are the similarities between what you did there and what you think you've got to do here? That's what interests me. And also maybe a little bit about the team that you've either got, bringing on board, or need to get to be able to deliver that.
So recognizing what Ceylon Graphite is and what it can be is one thing that I've been I just say not necessarily watching from the sidelines a bit, but I'm looking at what we're assembling here. I'm looking at the first producing mine in Sri Lanka, and I recognize that the entire island of Sri Lanka has maybe only produced about 3,000 to 5,000 tons a year since its heyday in the 40s. And so with that, I'm looking at talking with other tier one cell manufacturers, thinking they're going to want to see 15 to 30,000 tons of production in order to get their attention. So we're looking at developing. We have K1 right now. M1 is coming on stream within a couple of months, and then there's going to be mine 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, basically to get to the point where we can produce 50,000 tons of vein graphite. And the difference here with what I'm seeing with vein graphite is that, first of all, each mine is $2 million capex. It's not the 150 million plus of a flake mine, and nothing against the flake mines. We need lots of them. My background is flake mining, but vein graphite is unique in the fact that in the ground, it's above 90% carbon. So the interesting thing there is that we don't need to build a primary processing plant. There's no tailings. First of all, there's no drilling and blasting. There's no open pit mining allowed in Sri Lanka. So everything's underground. It's small scale. I have some ideas of how to mechanize and improve that production capacity to open multiple phases. So we may be able to get more production out of each mine. Right now, we're based on, ultimately 5,000 tons per mine. I want to increase that. If I can double it, great. I'll increase it some amount. I'm not sure just how much. I have to set foot on Sri Lanka soon, which I'm waiting for the COVID restrictions to lift. So with that, I'm going to look at that as the key component. This salon will not be about selling vein graphite. It will be about selling coated spherical graphite for batteries. Now we have an excellent team in place. We have 2 PhD scientists, a chemist and a physicist who I'm working with. They are on board with Ceylon. The three of us have combined experience in mining and ultimately processing and making the secondary product. So Ceylon Graphite right now is a small company. There's no question of that. But we have combined experience within this company that goes well beyond that, what you'd expect to find out of a small 25 million market cap company. Again, I'm a mining engineer. I've spent a lot of time and it's a lot of trial and error in developing the technologies for this, doing it in an environmentally sustainable manner. And I've said that to a couple of the OEMs who've actually come to talk to us, which is different from even a year ago. You wouldn't have seen that. They're looking, and I'm saying, we have a team here. We look small right now, but the potential is tremendous. We don't have the high capex to build the mines that others need to get financed in order to build, $150 million to build a small plant and mine, to then have to spend money on the secondary processing. We just jump right to secondary processing. That's something I've been working on for quite some time. And in parallel with doctors Siva and Malika Baum, who I'm working with, they're based in Cambridge. We're in the center of this sort of technical revolution as it comes to battery materials. And we know how to do it. There's no learning curve. It's a question of taking what we're already doing and supplying, which we can readily do now, supply, I can't say the OEMs we're talking with right now, but supply them with the material they need. And not only the material they need, a baseline straight natural graphite, we're working with silicon enhancements to those materials that I strongly believe will be the anode material of the future.
Okay, let's say you are the right person, and the guys that you've got, the guys working in Cambridge, UK, we're talking about here, are the right people. I'm trying to understand whether you've inserted and you've got the skills necessary to deliver to the OEMs, right? I'm trying to work out if you've backed the right horse here. That's what, as an investor, what I care about. So if we go to the mining side of this, because there's two sides to it. There's mining, underground mining, getting this out of the ground at scale, because it's high grade stuff. So one assumes the economics are there, and then the two, as you say, the secondary processing, so, the spherical graphite, etc., is sort of the next issue here. So let's go back to Sri Lanka, Ceylon of old, and you've got a bunch of mines, underground mines. They're small. So an OEM talking to you is going to say, can you not only deliver me technically, but can you deliver at a scale with certainty? So how do you answer those questions?
Well, so with that, again, first of all, we have mine 1 in production. So it's there, if you want to call that the first, not say trial case, but the first production ready mine. So we bring that on stream and mine it, hoist graphite. We're actually adding, again, my task is to get there and take my very first mining days were with Inco and Noranda. Both companies have gone now. They're both Valet, and I don't know where Noranda disappeared into. But so taking some of that obviously large scale mining experience, scaling it down, vein mining. I mean, some of these veins are 6 feet wide, 94, 95, even 97. Our current operating phase, mining phase, is 97 carbon. So it's done very traditionally, very manual. I'm looking at some machines, electric machines coming in that have capacities to, small scale from other industries to come in order to look to mechanize this. And I'm looking at the methods used today, and they may be the same as they were used 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And to mechanize that and looking at these machines that can, basically selectively mine through this material at a much faster rate than the current methods. So with that, looking at, versus, hoisting, the mine design parameters, hoisting material, which they're doing now, we have the ability to put in adits so we can get quicker material moving out versus having to wait and hoist materials. So with that, those are the kind of things I'm looking at. We are making some whole-scale changes in personnel in Sri Lanka. I'll have a new mine manager in place who is Sri Lankan. He's got experience working in the government mine, Kataga, which is 2,000 feet deep. It's been producing for quite some time. He's also worked, I believe he's also dual passport in Australia. He's worked with BHP. He's worked with other internationally recognized companies. So, he'll get it a little more. He's not just ingrained in how things are done in Sri Lanka. So this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to bring my mining background to Sri Lanka in order to direct and work out the long-term planning of this. And then, as I say, we have second mine is already underway. The one thing that with Ceylon has done, again, prior to my joining, was to zero in it, capture all the land, capture the mining areas. This is a regional geologic area. So we've got that land tied up, looking at developing the mines. They've been doing some other exploration, but not to the extent of, say, drilling off. So you've got, measured, indicated, and inferred. This is a different deposit. So what they've done is they've targeted, they've modeled it. I'm actually, one of the things I'll do too is to be able to take those models and we'll validate them. Right now, they weren't able to talk about 43101 resources. I know I've got in the one particular area, I know there's a 50,000 ton block of 95 carbon vein sitting there that is historic. I have the geologist who did all that work. He's now just getting his full qualifications. He has a PhD from a university in the UK. He's now a fellow with the London Geological Society. He becomes a charter. He can instantly validate. So I can come out now to an OEM and say, here's our resources we have now. So behind saying we've got mine 1, mine 2, mine 3, and up to mine 10, we now have the, here's the resource and mine plan. Here's the 5-year, 10-year plan to back that up. That's certified by, I'm a QP mining engineer. I can't sign off on our own resources, obviously, but our
surprised, Don.
PhD.
You'd be surprised at the amount of times we see that.
Well, I don't operate that way, but as I say, the one thing I recognize is that I needed to get Ranjith get his he had everything. He's fully qualified, but he wasn't recognized by a body that the TSX recognizes as a regulated.
Okay, so
that will happen very quickly.
Right, that'll happen very, very quickly. Okay, you're dropping in OEM because people get excited when people hear OEM, battery revolution happening apparently. So you sound to me like you're quite far off from working out how you go about tackling mine one. And I know you talked about 6 feet intervals, but that's the big number. The little number, 1 feet. So you've got to work out how you come at that. The thing in your favor, so I mean, is the grade, because grade can hide a lot of sin because there's margin there, and you can have a few guys that are trying to work it out. So how long do you think you need before you can work out the optimum way of doing this?
Quite frankly, I think once I set foot on the ground and see what they've got, I know I've communicated with one of the mining engineers we have there. I know we've got 3D models of those veins, the mines themselves. So within that, it's a matter of just bringing, just say even my North American standards or Western standards to those mines, and very quickly, solidifying that mine plan, mine design. And maybe we got one vein here that's 6 feet. We got one over here, it's 2 feet. We got one. So it's a matter of scheduling that, planning that, planning out the tonnage that we'll hoist from that, along with where we can, expedite some of that with some mechanized methods. And again, with that, very quickly validate. Let's just say we're not right today. We're not allowed to talk about a resource or a tonnage a number of years out. I will very quickly be able to say we validate that model that we have in existence, and with our newly qualified QP in the eyes of the exchange, we can instantly say, we have 5 years here of this mining in this vein. Here's the vein. We're going to mine it at this rate. We have that. So it's not a matter of going back and trying to figure out how we're going to do this. It's a question of seeing what we've already got and what I can now talk about. Today, I can't say I can hoist next month because the exchange won't let us say we've got tonnage or we've got out there. So, but I can, once we have that validated, it's all there. I just have to get, the stamp, and I get a stamp on Ranjit's charter from London, and we're good to go. Okay,
because
that's what gets.
Here's the thing that kind of confused me when I spoke, back in December to Bharat, is that he was using the language of, we've got 10 mines, we've got we've got all this technical ability over here. It was a maybe $30 million company then. It's what, a $25-26 million company now. It was like kind of almost like language of talking like way ahead of itself. You are exploration stage at the moment, equivalent. I know it's slightly different. That's what it feels. It's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it may feel that way. Yes, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I can't dispute what you're saying. But all I say is we do have a production mine, and it hoisted the first graphite pre-COVID. So of course, everything what's gone on there. So that has delayed us in saying, okay, we've hoisted graphite, and then we get delays. We got start and stop because of COVID. Again, with this approach that I'm bringing to the table from an engineering perspective, it gives me. I mean, I know as far as we can say. I'm not saying we have 10 mines today. I'm saying we have 10 mines very quickly. We have mine 1, mine 2 is ready to go within 2 months of permitting, notwithstanding when the people, the GSMB, are in the office of COVID lockdowns or whatnot. That in and of itself gives us, from my perspective, from coming from a developer, or let's say another flake mine, I've got a feasibility study sitting there. I've got a 43101 resource. I've got 50 million tons. I don't have a mine. I need to raise $150 million to build this mine and plant, or maybe more than that. And it's probably too small. And the economics are based on mining graphite and looking at the basket price of large, medium, fine flake. This mine and plenty of say ultimately multiples of mines. Vein graphite is unique in the fact that our mining costs are $200 a ton. Vein graphite on its own sells for, in the bag from the mine, sells for $2,000 a ton. So my argument is that this mine is profitable selling vein graphite. A flake mine in North America, hard rock flake mine, is not profitable selling graphite flake. The model has to continue through to the batteries. And a company like Nouveau Monde is doing that. They're saying their feasibility study today may still be based on selling graphite, and it is, but they recognize that they've got to take it further, the second transformation into anode graphite. So I'm looking at these mines in Sri Lanka. Yes, they are small. And that's my first thing I said when I joined the board. I said, you're not going to get anybody excited about 5,000 tons a year. We need to get to, I said 30,000 before that happens, and ultimately 50,000 tons. So we have to, as we develop, as we grow. And the thing is, we don't want to be 50,000 tons tomorrow, because you look at Acera Resources, they were nameplate capacity 300,000 tons of flake. They came out to produce 100,000 tons of flake, and they shut down because they were, I knew before, they were too big, too soon. Even 100,000 tons is too big, too soon. And I think they've proven that. They never got their basket price. They shut down. I think they may be looking to start up now, but they recognize they have a small plant they're trying to put in Louisiana for spherical graphite. I'm not sure what their purification is. It was originally hydrofluoric acid. But all I'm saying is that to look at Ceylon Graphite, small company right now, yes, we're gonna grow ultimately out to 10 mines, maybe more. There's some other things I'm working on, some other partnerships within the island I can't talk about right now, which could also expand that capacity. I'm talking with certain levels within the country. See, look, we're going to do what, and I don't want to sound like a mining promoter, which I may for a second, but from an engineering perspective, I know I can bring this up to the capacity. The graphite's there. There's no question about it. But historically, it's been there. Sri Lanka is the only place, no matter what's said, the only place where vein graphite is. I know there's some others trying to talk about vein graphite, but it's 40% in the ground, or it's probably more amorphous than vein. But this is unique. Vein graphite, once you process it, it has a higher capacity for a battery than flake graphite. We need lots of flake graphite for batteries, but vein graphite on its own is better. So, and again, talking with who I've got, we have experience. Right now, we're making batteries in Cambridge and in the UK right now. And we have a baseline, basically vein graphite parameters with that. We'll have the technical data sheets for that. We have silicon enhancements that we're doing right now. So, so when you're talking to the potential end users, and you're saying, we're going to give you technical data sheets on baseline and silicon addition, with some unique things that we've been able to. We just announced a patent for few layer graphene, not a patent, but a license. I've never been a fan of talking about graphene. A lot of junior mining companies in the past have talked about it. I think it was purely promotional. A junior mining company, as I thought, had no business talking about graphene. With our inclusion in our team of doctors, Siva and Malika Baum, again, she's a PhD physicist, he's a PhD chemist. We have this in-house capability that we've drawn into Ceylon Graphite. So again, we are a small company today, no doubt. However, we are, big on experience within this. So there's no learning curve in doing this. Do we have to scale up our process? Yes. One thing I've been doing privately is on the furnace side of things, continuous purification methods. So we're ready to hit the ground running there. It's within my private entity, but that will transfer over to Ceylon. And the biggest thing that I've learned to do this, looking at this, and I remember walking out of a plant or a group in Tokyo when I was with the other company still. And they said they're going to need 9,000 tons a year of spherical graphite. That's probably not what they're going to need. If you look at what the announcements that Volkswagen has made, if you look at the gigawatt hours they want by 2030, they're going to need, I calculated, 288,000 tons of processed graphite. So we need lots of companies doing this, what we're doing. Again, starting small, I think is the way to go. Again, Sierra is the best example, starting too big too soon. And I think whoever ends up running that company I think a Chinese will end up with that mine, and the product will probably go into China. So we can provide an alternative. I think, again, developing smaller mines, first of all, from an ESG footprint, and what is so important now in investing, we're finding, and the OEMs it's on their checklist almost as much as say their, with the product you can make, your technical capabilities, is what's your ESG footprint. All our mines are underground in Sri Lanka, and they will, all of them will be. The 2 mines we have, and all of them will be underground. We're looking to, again, there's some partnerships we're working at to help us maybe more quickly add to that tonnage production. And maybe our next interview, I can tell you a bit more about that. But it's a question of showing you have the technical capability to make that product. Graphite mining is not about having tons, it's about having tons in the ground, but it's also about your ESG footprint. We don't have tailings, we don't have waste rock dump, we don't have that primary processing to deal with. We go straight to a secondary process because we have such a high grade deposit.
Okay, so right, so let's come back a bit, because there's a lot going. I know you've got so much to say, and you're the new guy here, and you've got a vision in your head. But I'm trying to understand it. So I'm glad you talk about scale, or you appreciate the fact that you need to get scale going. Whether it be 30,000 or 50,000 ton, that's sort of quantum, not 5. Okay, so you're still describing them as mines. So are these previously producing mines that you're talking about, or do you mean to use another word?
No, they're mines. They were previously. So what I understand is how we have 128 grids, and that's how the entire island is split up into grids. So we were able to it wasn't me then, but the founders, the original people who put this package together, went to the GSMB archives and which is the mining authority in Sri Lanka, and went to where all the old mines were. They used to only mine the surface, the old pits. The veins come from deep underground right up through the surface. So all the mining activity historic has been surface. Is it more than artisanal, or is it a little bit more industrial than that? It was industrial, because at the time Sri Lanka did produce, I think prior to World War II and up to II, is that they produced all of it, a lot of the graphite, and then post World War II, other sources came, and then they fell off. So these old mining pits are still there, and they follow the veins. So the veins, you can see them, and you just follow them underground. Brilliant. Okay. In some cases.
So they're there. Do you think there's a disconnect between the way the company has tried to accelerate into producing cash flow, because it's nice simple mining, you could get some stuff off, you've put a bit of product out there in the market for people to test, but you've sold some. It's a very entrepreneurial, I'm not speaking ill of your predecessor, but he was a bit more entrepreneurial in spirit, versus what you're talking about doing is possibly, and what the market may want to see, which is a more conventional approach with a few more checks and balances in place through studies, through engineering, through mine plans, and just give a little bit more certainty, which is a word I used right at the beginning here, which OEMs are going to want. Give me scale and give me certainty that you can deliver. Is that the bit that's been missing?
It is, and I don't disagree with their approach right off the bat, but it does. Right now, as of today, it does handcuff us a little bit, because although you've got a producing mine, you can't talk about a resource or reserve. So that's what I'm going to fix, and hope very quickly. I know that there are technical reports there, there are studies there. We just need to validate those with our new QP, our very qualified geologist there, who will be recognized as a QP. Today he is not. So he's done the work, but he can't stamp it. In very short order, he can stamp it. And then I can use that for my long-term mine planning, which hasn't been done before. The 3D models that we have can all be validated and used in that process. Right, so yes, we will bring that to a quantifiable amount.
Good. Okay. So I didn't want to sort of run off ahead of ourselves there. I want to focus on what's important to the market, which is we need almost to be a little bit more conventional, less entrepreneurial, a little bit more certainty about the future than hand to mouth, because no one's got an idea of how big or what the potential is or what the economics are, quite frankly. That scares people. Okay, so you're going to do all of the above with the new team that you've brought in and will continue to bring in. Now let's talk about the technical component. You're obviously talking about Spherical Graphite there as where you want to focus, because you've got the product to be able to deliver that. Technically, you're working with guys but it's we're at lab stage here, right? Cambridge,
yes and no.
Manchester. Isn't that where the IP, where the intelligence sits? You've also mentioned some IP that you can bring in here, and which you're going to do what? Sell to the company? Give to the company? How's that work?
Well, first of all, one of the things I recognized early on is that we need to do this at scale. One of the things I've been doing behind the scenes or on my own private, and I still have a private entity that has kept working on this technology and to do it at scale. I walked out of another meeting with a off-the-shelf spheronization machine company in Japan a couple of years ago, and we've been at a different lab. We've been using their machine, which is what they produce. You can take the data from that and scale it up. And I quickly realized that this machine at full capacity will only do 400 tons a year. I said, that's crazy. We need tens of thousands of tons. So one of the things I've gone on from there is look at the other components of this whole process to say, we have to do this at tens of thousands of tons. So that's what I sort of bring to the table here, is that yes, privately been working on the full scale furnaces, multiple tons per hour feed through, versus we've gone from grams to kilograms to now multiple, several hundred kilograms an hour, to scale up to the units that are 5 tons an hour, let's say. Same thing with the spheronizing, picking the right machine that will do, instead of doing 700 tons or 300 tons a year, we can do it with at 3,000 tons a year per unit. So you put in multiple units, obviously, for what your scale is going to be, and then you keep adding to that as you build up your capacity. So that comes into play. That takes time, and that is something that Ceylon doesn't have to do. There's no trial and error in deciding what machine we're going to use. Let's test this. Let's test that. We come in and we do it now.
Who's we? Because you're the CEO of this company. Okay. Who's we?
Yes, the we is again myself and my technical team. So you talk about my technical team in the UK. We're dealing with labs, but we're also dealing with the manufacturers whose machines we're going to use. So we know what that. If we're making 10 kilograms of spherical graphite with this machine, we know that machine that we're going to buy from them off the shelf will do 3,000 tons a year. So we know from that perspective, we place our order for that machine within the delivery time. We've got that capacity to scale up quicker. So the learning curve on the doesn't exist. So you asked about, am I just going to give the technology to Ceylon? Well, there's some give and take between what I was doing privately and what Ceylon's been doing. So as they say, some of the IP, for example, on even the particle itself, the spheronized particle, what we do with the silicon, that is something that even could be another product, how we deal with the silicon before it gets put in with the graphite. That particular thing that we've done with the graphene, what I meant earlier, talking about graphene, we're able to basically functionalize it, use it in an application, versus just having making graphene, which is you need to have a product for it. So we'll have multiple uses, but by having the license for this few layer graphene, we can use that within our process, and each particle we have, each spheronized particle may be. Our process could be something that would be, obviously it's going to be IP, but it could be something that could be transferred elsewhere or sold or monetized in other manner. So that experience, and I fully recognize you pointing out that we're doing it in kilogram scale and whatnot, but everything we're looking at, we know the end source or the end machine that we have will be able to do this at tons versus kilograms. So the scaling up, where we've and Dr. Baum that I'm working with as well, have worked with graphite for quite some time. Malika was with Talga at one point. So they've done a lot of work with Talga. I think Talga is fairly recognized in the space and what they've done. Mark Thompson's done some good things there as well. So I think looking at what the experience, again, we've assembled within Ceylon, a tiny company right now, the potential of what we got. And as I've said to others is that, we don't have a learning curve at this point. We still have to build out, do we have the physical facilities right now? No, we're using, manufacturers we're using their work, but we're working with the manufacturers, especially with the sterilization machines. And now we're using the university facilities right now at work we're making batteries there right now as we speak. So we'll have that information flow pretty quick along with our formulations. And again, we have the trial and error and time put in to decide what that bigger process will look like.
Okay, as a new CEO to Ceylon, so have you sat on the board of any other companies or been CEO of any other companies, public companies?
Yes, I think early on I mentioned I was CEO of Alabama Graphite.
You were CEO, okay, cool.
Just taken over, and prior to that, I was president and chief operating officer of Focus Graphite. So that was public. And prior to that, public company I was president of Northern Graphite. So I've come through the graphite ranks, but as I've come along through there, I've picked up and continued to work on the battery processing technologies. And being an engineer, that's something that I've focused on a lot, knowing that is the future of graphite. That's what interests people, and that's what the market is. So it's been a process where it'll culminate in the benefits to Ceylon, what I've done for others over the past.
Okay, fine. And how much cash have you got in the bank today?
We're just around the 2 million range. We raised 4 million just prior to October. We have some warrants not coming up, and we have some other things in the works. So one of the things I'm looking at doing, obviously, is getting the word out, getting more interest on the story, and looking to accelerate some of the milestones there. And I think we'll probably look at doing a raise in the fall. We may have some other announcements prior to that may change that need. Let's say things I can't talk about, but right now, from our burn rate and what we're doing right now, we have we're in good shape. Okay, fine.
Well, let's leave it there, Don, because I think that's a nice reintroduction to the new team, to the new story, to the new way of looking at this. Less entrepreneurial, a bit more process driven, which is always good to hear. And maybe you can come back on and get into, just help us all understand, because the other difficulty with graphite is people just don't understand it.
Absolutely, and as I say, I've been Chicken Little running around for the graphite side for eons. But even now, you look at someone like I just read a post Simon Moore's put out about it's great to talk about all these factories being built, but it comes down to you got to feed these factories with raw materials. And you may have an empty building, you can't ready to make batteries, but if you don't have the input materials, so my view is that we need a lot of companies doing just what we're going to do. So I think there's there's a need for it. There's a need for the OEMs and whoever to look at knowing there's enough supply out there. So the more the better in some respects. So you talk about technologies and sharing technologies that the competitive nature is there, but I think there's some companies also that can ultimately work together to the benefit. If you have a tier one cell manufacturer and they've got 2 solid or 3 solid sources of material, that's going to give them a lot of confidence to keep supplying their General Motors or Ford or whomever's getting the material, Volkswagen. So again, I think there are some, from the old days of the graphite space, it was pretty backbiting and pretty I wasn't exactly excited about getting back in front of a public company, quite frankly. I'm starting to enjoy it again, but I'm more excited by what I know I can do here. I'm more excited as an engineer looking at this and put the legs underneath it. I think the next time we talk, we'll have some pretty good meaty discussion, let's say, on further what I've done versus not what I'm going to do.